I've just been unboxing this. It arrived today from Japan. It is an 8-track karaoke machine. I can sense people switching off already. The karaoke videos really are not popular, but nevertheless, I'm going to carry on. We'll see if we can get this thing working, and if it does work, it has arrived just in time, because a couple of days ago, some cartridges turned up for it as well, and this one has got some Christmas music on it. So if it functions, we can maybe sing along to some of these Christmas tunes towards the end of the video. But first off, I've got to see whether or not this thing actually does anything. Now, I'm going to go through all these controls later if we can get it working, but there are two things that could be wrong with this. Well, first off, we could have a perished belt. Secondly, the head mechanism that moves it up and down often gets stuck if these things haven't been used for a while. So it could do with some lubrication, I'm quite sure about that. But let's find out. Let's plug it in and see what happens. Okay, well, I've got it plugged into my speakers there, and I've got a step down transformer here. So with that plugged into there, well, I've got a light on the front, so clearly the power's coming through. Now, I don't know whether or not this will change the head. I kind of feel like that should be moving. Oh. Doesn't sound good, does it? Okay, well, I'm going to try a cartridge in here that isn't a karaoke one. It should play the music from this, so let's have a listen. That's start. Oh dear. Well, there's obviously signs of life. That's a good thing. The head isn't moving and it's a bit wobbly. I'm sure we could get it playing better than that, but we could do with this head moving, because the whole point of this thing is that I'm going to be able to select the track to sing along with. And at the moment, I'm just stuck on track 3. Let's try and move that again. Yeah, that's going nowhere. Okay, let's open it up and have a look inside. So let's find out exactly what's going on in here. Right, well, we've got a date on here. 11th of May, 83. Probably a bit newer than you were expecting, that. Right, so this is the head mechanism in the middle. Yeah. Maybe if we get the power on, we'll be able to get it moving about. Right, let's move this head. There we go. Doesn't sound good, but it's definitely freed it off. I don't know about you, but I can detect a very slight issue with wow and flutter there. It's actually getting better. Well, that's an unexpected and pleasant surprise. It fixed itself. It seems to be working just fine now. A bit of a Christmas miracle. I was expecting that I might have to swap out the belt, which will be going from the motor here across to this point here. And to get to that, I'd have to unscrew this mechanism and flip it over, get to the other side of it. But then again, I don't have a suitable belt in the house, so I'd have to order one. It would take a few days, and this one sounds just fine now. It's not exhibiting all that wow and flutter that we started off with, so I might as well just put the lid on. I also thought that I might have to deox all these controls on the front because they'd be crackling, but going through them all, not a crackle to be heard. So really, very lucky there. Let's put the lid on, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the 8-track and the karaoke machine in Japan. Right, so when it comes to using this as an 8-track cartridge player, well, you can forget most of this stuff over on the right hand side. We're only using these 3 buttons here. Now you can see from the light there, we're on program 3 at the moment. Of course, there's quite a bit more text around there. I'll explain what all that's about in a moment. But if we just use the normal buttons over here on the right, we can go to program 4, then back to number 1 again. Now if I press play here on the right, that one starts playing straight away. And this is the fast forward. Yeah, it does sound a little bit wobbly still. I think if I plan on using this more in the future, I'll open it up and swap that belt out. But for the moment, we'll just keep using the one that's in it. Now this fast forward will continue to the end of the tape where the foil splice is, unless I press play again and then bring it back on. Now one thing with that, it gradually increases the speed when you press fast forward. I don't know if that's just down to age, but it's quite nice as well because it doesn't put too much strain on the tape as it's just bringing it up to speed. Of course you can't rewind an 8-track cartridge, so our choices here are play, track skip and fast forward, and that's it. The difference between this and a traditional 8-track cartridge player is that it won't continue through the program. So say we start on program number 1, once the tape has got to the end it will stop, and it's up to me then to move it into position number 2 and then press play to start. Notice also we don't have a stop button on here. Like a lot of 8-track cartridge players, the way to stop it is just to take the tape out. And there's just one more feature that I'd like to demonstrate using this cartridge. I need to fast forward it to the end first though. I'll get it on program 4 as well. Now that light should be coming on when it's fast forwarding. You can see it's a little bit intermittent. There we go. But once we get to the end, I'll show you what this control here does. Yeah, so not a feature that you'd tend to need on your regular music cartridge. However, if you were singing along with karaoke, you might want to adjust the pitch and the speed of the track at the same time using this control. You know, whenever I've featured 8-track cartridges in videos, quite a few people will like to say what a terrible format it is, and trust me, I'm aware of its issues because I've used it. But the thing that really gets to me the most about the format is the name of it. The fact it's called the 8-track. It's a confusing name. And it still causes confusion to this day. If you did a search on why is it called an 8-track, you get a lot of people asking that question. Because we're more familiar with the term track being used like this. This LP has 20 tracks on it. Well, an 8-track, for example this Exodus, that's got 10 tracks on it. 10 tracks of music on an 8-track cartridge. This one from Anders Enger Jensen that's just come out, the best of, 16 tracks on this 8-track. Of course, we know the term 8-track refers to the way the tracks are laid out on the tape, but that information is not relevant to the punter. They just need to know they're buying the right cart for their machine. They don't care what's going on behind the scenes. But when it came to the previous format, the 4-track cartridge, I can understand that making more sense. It was also called the stereo pack, but they called it the 4-track cartridge as well because it's referring back to the open reel tapes. You need to buy the right reel for your machine. So you need to know, is it a 2-track, is it a 4-track? Looking at it, you can't tell. They look the same, they've got the same tape dimensions. They're on the same reel size. They might have less tape on them, but unless you've got the two to compare. I don't know if that's a 2-track or a 4-track tape, or even a mono tape. When 8-track comes along, that information is not relevant anymore. They're using the 8 on there because it's more than 4. It's marketing. But it's marketing in a confusing way because punters are saying, well, why is it called an 8-track? I don't understand. What's the 8-track business? And you say, oh, it's 4 stereo programs. And they go, well, where's the 8 come from? You go, well, left and right channels on the 4 programs. If you had that up, it'd say, oh, right, okay. Why are you telling me this? I don't know. They called it the Learjet Stereo 8, the TC8, but it always has this 8 on it, and it's just annoying to me. However, forget the rant, because on this particular machine, it's important information. If I buy a karaoke cart, is it a 4-track 8-track or is it an 8-track 8-track? Because while it's using a regular 8-track cartridge, it's using it in a different way to how it was originally intended. Just to recap, an 8-track tape contains a 1/4-inch wide tape with 8 parallel audio tracks recorded along the length of it. The tape is in a loop in the cartridge, and when it reaches the end of the loop, it's stuck together with a bit of foil tape. Now, in the case of Exodus here, this is a 37.5 minute long album, approximately. Now, that means the tape in here is round about 9.5 minutes in length. And when it does one 9.5 minute long loop, it hits the foil, that activates a sensor in the machine, it knocks the tape head down to the next program. There are 4 programs on here, the 4 programs with 2 stereo tracks each. So it starts off at the top of the tape and it's playing tracks 1 and 5. It then moves around the tape, 1 full loop, next one down, plays 2 and 6, same again, 3 and 7, and finally 4 and 8. And that's how you get it to play a 37.5 minute long album from a 9.5 minute long tape. When the 8-track made its way to Japan, somebody thought, why not just have the loop long enough for a single track? It'll hit that foil and it'll stop at the end, and you can pick from your 4 tracks. And then in a karaoke machine, for example, you could have it activated by putting a coin in, or you could press a button to start. But you could instantly pick between 4 tracks. And in a karaoke place, they'd have a big selection of these things. You'd have a catalogue. You'd say, right, I want to sing My Way. You'd find it in the catalogue. It'd say cartridge 52, track 3. You put it in the machine, press it, and you're straight there. Now, just think, what other formats would there have been around at that time where you'd have, I say instant, but, you know, pretty near instant access to an individual track. It's the most sensible format for karaoke at the time. Maybe karaoke wouldn't have come along if the 8-track hadn't been invented by the Bill Lear company. So another thing to hate the 8-track for, maybe it's responsible for karaoke. Who knows? Now, a 4-track karaoke cart like this is really just a normal 8-track cartridge. It'll play in any old 8-track machine and it'll sound completely normal. The only difference with it is that it's got less tape on the cartridge. There is another kind of 8-track cartridge for karaoke though, and that wouldn't play normally on this machine, and it's these ones that I've got back here, because these, instead of using stereo for your backing, they've used the left and right channels individually. So instead of just 4 tracks to choose from, on here I've got 8. And the way that these work is you pick the left or right channel and it's played back in mono. So if I was to play this in here, I haven't tried this yet, it would play 2 things at once. It's probably right back at the start at the moment, of course, because once it goes round it will stop. So it might take a couple of seconds for this to get going, but once it does, it will be playing both the left and right channels at the same time. There you go. It took a while, but you get the idea. So what you need with a tape like this is a machine that's capable of letting you choose between the left and right channels. So this machine does that. I can either play the more common 4-track karaoke tapes or the less common 8-track karaoke tapes in this. And actually finding a home machine that can play the 8-track ones is also quite difficult, because it tended to be something that was more used in a commercial karaoke environment than in the home. So this machine is a very nice little one that I've found, because the ones I could see online, most of them were gigantic units designed to be used in bars and things. So this looks like a home player, but it's capable of playing both those cartridges. Now, if you wanted to play a regular stereo 8-track cartridge or one of these 4-track karaoke tapes, you position this to the left-hand side, and then pressing this button here selects between the 4 programs. If you've got one of these 8-program karaoke carts, you position it here in the middle, lined up with the A, to play tracks 1 through to 4, and then you would position it to the B to play tracks 5 through to 8. There is another position on here, by the way, and that allows the auxiliary input to come through this device, and it's not mixed in with the tapes, it's just a selector for those RCAs on the back. Now, as far as the remainder of the controls on the front, to the right of that speed adjustment, we've got individual volume levels for the 2 microphone inputs. To the left of those, we've got this, which adjusts the amount of echo on those microphones. And then here, this one is the balance control between left and right, and that is only activated once this button here has been pushed in. Now, this 8-song 8-track dates to 1984, and it was originally part of this set here, which when it was new contained 10 cartridges for a total of 80 tracks. There's one of them missing. I'll try and find a track name that I recognise. I did a Google Translate on this, and so far I'm not winning. We've got songs such as Have a Drink Together, Alcohol, Tears, Men and Women, Man's Back. I don't recognise any of those. I'm just going to have a look through these. Now, these are all sealed up still. And it's number 25 that I'm missing because this is number 30. So let me just do a bit of a translation on these spides and see if there's any tracks here which ring a bell. Ah, hold on. I think there's some on number 22. Okay, so on here, according to this, we've got My Way and Yesterday as the first two tracks. We've also got Queen of Mackerel. I think that's a bit of a mistranslation. Right, so since they're tracks 1 and 2, we can leave it in the A position here. It's lit up for track 1 already. So track 1, according to that, should be My Way. Oh yeah, Memories of Green Grass. We had that on before. That's the green, green grass of home, isn't it? We've got You Are My Sunshine. That's definitely My Way. Yeah, I think that's Yesterday. Yes, that's the green, green grass of home. Let's listen to the Queen of Mackerel, or whatever it was. See if you recognise this one. Bit fishy. Let's go on to the B's. So we'll start back at the beginning. Well, that's You Are My Sunshine, but it's just finishing there. So this should now stop very soon. Of course, each track will be a different length to one another. So I suppose at this point, you'd press fast forward to get to the end of the cartridge before you take it out of the machine so that it's ready to play the next track. Okay, so you get the idea. So what we're going to do now, we'll put it into the position for My Way. Was that on number 1? I think it was. And it'll be ready once it gets back to the beginning. Right, so let's have a listen to the echo. So all the way off, right, that's me with no echo, and now moving it all the way up to the other end, that's me with a ridiculous amount of echo. And as I face the final curtain, I actually don't know the lyrics to this song, so I'm going to have to stop. Right, okay, well that works in a kind of annoying way, so I'll just get it back to the beginning again, and we'll have a listen to the Christmas one. In fact, I'm going to serenade you out with one of these. I hope they don't get a concept match. Sometimes you can get a composition match. If I was to play the Yesterday on there's a potential that the melody could hit a composition match and block the video. So we've got a few here that are famous songs with known composers. They're not just hymns or traditional folk tunes, so I'm going to have to pick carefully here. I got the lyrics for Jingle Bells. Have you ever seen these? First time for me. I mean, you kind of know the song, but I thought I'd best just make sure. Well, there's a whole rhyme in here about Miss Fanny Bright. Did you know she was in Jingle Bells? Well, she is. She's in verse 3. I don't think we ever get to verse 3. Dashing through the snow on a one-horse open sleigh, o'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtail ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to laugh and sing a sleighing song tonight. I'll tell you what, we'll sit this one out. We'll do the Fanny Bright one, because then you'll know what it is without having to Google Fanny Bright. Probably for the best. A day or two ago, I thought I'd take a ride, and soon Miss Fanny Bright was seated by my side. The horse was lean and lank, misfortune seemed his lot. We got into a drifted bank, and then we got upsot. I think that's enough of that. All I'll say over this racket is have a Merry Christmas if you can, And I'm going to take a couple of days off. I hope you've enjoyed some of the videos this year. Thanks for sticking with it. And this is too loud. Flipping heck. So yeah, I'm not going to hang around because it's doing my head in as much as it is yours. But yeah, thanks for all your support. Thanks for watching the videos. And once a year I ask, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. But I only do it once a year and that's it. So, thanks. I feel like singing along. Thanks for watching the videos. Bye!